Welcome to another Halloween special from Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your spooky host, Dom, and in tonight's special, we'll be looking over some more DCOMs, reviewing All Hallows Eve, checking out the history of Halloween, and ending with some creepy stories. I've always loved the little rhyme from Halloween at the beginning, so here we go. Black cats and goblins, and broomsticks and ghosts, covens of witches with all of their hopes. You may think they scare me, they're probably right. Black cats and goblins on Halloween night. Trick or treat. Without further ado, let's get scared. So last Halloween season, we took a look at a series of Disney Channel original movies, Halloween Town, and I wanted to talk about a couple more that stood out to me. The first film is the first DCOM to premiere. The second has a little bit more of a bite to it, and the last isn't as scary, but still good. I mean, they're not all of them are scary, but let's get right into these DCOMs. So first up, we've got Under Wraps, and that one's, I'm pretty sure it's the original DCOM, the first one that premiered. I think they partnered with a completely different studio outside of Disney to make it, and that's why you can't find it on Disney Plus. I think that's why they remade it, honestly, because when you go on there, the remake is on there, and they made a sequel to that one. But it's basically the same plot, except I think they got, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm older now, but it seemed like they got younger kids to be in it. It could just be because I'm fucking old now or something, but they look way younger than they should. But yeah. So it's the story of Marshall and his two friends, Gilbert and Amy, and how they're really Marshall's really into like scary stuff and like being scared and like Halloween and all that stuff, and you know, Gilbert's really scared. Amy's kind of like the girl who's like kind of like I'm tough, don't take no shit kind of thing. And you know, they're just friends hanging out, and one night they discover that their neighbor is I think it's his neighbor has like a sarcophagus in his basement, and they go down there and they open it up, and it turns out there's a mummy, and the mummy comes back to life, and it turns out the mummy is trying to get back to his other mummy, that's the female mummy that's like in the museum or something, and he's trying to get back to her because that's like his love or whatever. And then I don't know, they're trying to use the mummy. I forget what the bad guys are trying to do with the mummy, honestly. But like crazy antics ensue. But it's really good. I remember. I remember when it first premiered back in 1997. Oh, I'm so old. But this movie was just like I said, it's considered to be the first DCOM, although I think there were some other Disney movies that premiered originally for Disney Channel, but this one's considered the first one because it was specifically made to be played on the Disney Channel. But yeah, so like the kids are trying to help him. It's Halloween time, so like he kind of fits in right now. They nickname him Harold after Marshall's mom's boyfriend, because they're like, oh, he reminds me of Harold. Honestly, I think he's played by the same guy too. It's what's his name from Coach? I think Coach is a very out there kind of reference, like one obscure reference, because I don't think everybody knows what Coach was. Coach was a TV show on I don't remember what it was on, but it was Craig T. Nelson. I think Jerry Van Dyke was on it, and Bill Fagerbach. He plays not SpongeBob. He plays oh god damn it, what's his name? Patrick on SpongeBob. But I'm pretty sure he plays I'm pretty sure he plays both Harold's, the boyfriend and like the boyfriend, and I think he plays the mummy too. And he's pretty funny as the mummy. There's parts where like he's going around he's walking around the city, and he goes and like he goes through the drive-through and like he orders like a bunch of stuff, and then like there's a little kid that comes around and tries to help them too, and you guys have a mummy, and like, no, we don't, or whatever. But you know, it's a good like short like movie or whatever. It's like a great like DCOM. Like it's exactly what you think of when you think of a DCOM. But what I will say is that it's hard to find. I think you have to rent it or buy it on like Prime or something, because like I said, it was produced by a different studio, not just Disney. So I think that's why it's really hard to find. That's why it's not on Disney Plus. But they did make, like I said, they made a remake. The remake was made, I think, for Disney Plus. It was like maybe, I'd say maybe like, when did Disney Plus premiere? It must have been like 2019, 2020? No, 2020. So it was maybe, I'd say maybe like a year or two after. So it's only a couple years old. And I know that they made a sequel to it. I watched the remake. It's a kind of a rehash. They do some things the same. They do some things different. I don't know. I really didn't like it that much. But it could be that it's just not for me now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is a remake. It's meant to be for, like, the generation now. I mean, what can you do, right? Things are going to move on. Things are going to change. Especially when they can't get the movie onto their streaming. They're going to remake it. They're going to redo it. They're going to try and get it on there some way. And that's how they did it. But let's move on to our next DCOM. Mom's got a date with a vampire. So, for those of you who don't know, a lot of these are going to be a lot of older DCOMs. They're not going to be the more, at least I don't think they're the more famous ones. Mom's got a date with a vampire. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. It was made in 2000, which, Jesus fucking Christ, I can't believe how like long ago this stuff was. I was like, man, it's 24 years old, which is crazy. But like the Henson kids, they are, you know, they kind of get into trouble. You know, Adam's the main kid. He constantly isn't doing his homework. He's constantly like talking about like vampires and spooky stuff. And his little brother Taylor is constantly believing him. But as they go, you know, he gets in trouble. He's not allowed to go to a concert. The mom like grounds him and the sister, but they have a way of like sneaking out. Their way is that they get her on to a date with a guy that they meet at the supermarket. The little brother Taylor, he thinks that he's a vampire. Trouble ensues from there. Turns out he is a vampire. So now Adam and his sister Chelsea have to go and try and you know, stop him from trying to like drink her blood or whatever he's gonna do to her, make her his like what do you call it? Not confidant, but like whatever. He's gonna try and suck her blood. And so now they're gonna stop him, and there's also this guy named Malachi Van Helsing who's going around trying to help them, kinda, and he's going with Taylor to try and stop him. It's pretty good. I like it. It's got Caroline Rhea. She's from if you know Sabrina the Teenage Witch, not the one from Netflix with the original Sabrina. She's one of the aunts on there, and overall, it's a pretty good one. You know, it's on Disney Plus. You can watch it right now, especially for the spooky season, so you have enough time to watch it. It's pretty good. Like it's to me, it's always been. I mean, it is a little cheesy at parts. There's like when the guy Malachi just walks into their house, and like the babysitter is just like, she's not okay with it, but she's just like, she doesn't do anything. She doesn't freak out. She doesn't like say anything. She kind of gives him a look, and like, and then she's like, vampire hunter, and he's like, he just kind of shrugs it off, and then I don't know. There's just like little cheesy things here and there, but overall, it is a fun little time to watch. There's a lot of dated things, like there's like rockabilly music in it, which was kind of popular towards the end of the 90s and into the early 2000s. It's very popular with a particular branch of people. But honestly, I think this one of all of them you could see have been in like theaters. It has I feel like it has a better production value than everything, even though I think it is a little bit more cheesier. But it does seem like this one would have come out in like theaters. I honestly thought it did until I saw it again, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I guess it's. I looked into it a little bit more, and I was like, yeah, I guess it was just a regular old DCOM, like released for the Disney Channel. So next up, we got Phantom of the Megaplex. And I've always loved this one. This one's not really as scary as all the other ones. I mean, I'm not saying that any of them are scary or anything. But I mean, this one to me was more like, I think it's kind of how I feel about Phantom of the Opera. Where I know that the original one is kind of scary. Because, you know, they do the effects on it, like the special effects on his face, and the makeup and stuff, and they go out of their way to make him look more gruesome and stuff. But more modern interpretations of Phantom of the Opera, that's where I'm like, okay, I can see why Phantom of the Megaplex isn't either as remembered or not as like, you know, as scary. There's a lot of things in it that's just like, okay. But it's the story of Pete Riley, who is 17, and he's got a job at a multiplex in his neighborhood. And he's like the assistant manager or whatever. And they're screening the premiere of like a new horror film that's coming out. And a bunch of Hollywood people are coming in. So they have to get everything ready for that night. And then like crazy, spooky things start happening, like the movies, like they're like, one's called like Glimpses of Genevieve, and like all you can see are like parts of it, and then one has like a twist. One's like kind of like a Twister movie, so it has like this big fan comes in and like starts blowing everyone away. All these like crazy things, right, start happening. And he's trying to piece things together with his two younger siblings, Karen and Brian, and they're both like obsessed with movies. And in the end, you find out that it was the manager the whole time, because he was upset that someone else got a promotion over him, and that the guy, the owner guy, who is the guy from Goosebumps, the mask maker guy, that he's mad that he can never remember his name, and so he takes out his revenge on everybody. And I always like this one. I always like this one a lot, because not I don't know if I like it more than the other ones. Obviously, there's some that are way better than the others, but I always like putting this one on when I'm getting ready to get into that spooky season. I think I put this one on, and Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, to get me into like that ooky spooky, can't wait feeling. You know, it's like where it's like it's on the cusp of being like the end of like the summer, and we're moving into, like around, I'd say like August, September is usually when I watch these to get me ready to be like, yeah, oh, that spooky season's coming, guys. That spooky season's a coming. Oh, yes. And yeah, I love these ones. I love, there's a lot more DCOMs that I'd love to talk about. I try looking into them as much as I can. There's not really a lot of information on these ones. That's why I tried to do like 3 all together right now, just so that I could, get them out of the way of talking about them, because like they just give me that like that feeling of, I'm ready for Halloween, guys. Like, today's Halloween and I'm gonna watch Under Wraps. We're gonna watch Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire. I'm gonna watch Phantom of the Megaplex. I probably won't be able to fit them in because there's a lot of other things that I want to watch, but like they get you in that good feeling of like when you want to feel like it's Halloween, like that's what you gotta watch. You gotta watch one of these. There's more, like I said, Halloween Town, which we've already talked about. That really gets me into that Halloween spirit too, and I just, God, DCOMs, they just remind me of like being a kid, and just every year that there's going to be a new, Disney Channel original movie that's gonna, either it's like during the regular season, like with like Brink, or or like Johnny Tsunami, or you get all these other ones, and then they gave us these like great like Halloween DCOMs that like every year you could go back and you watch. And I just remember being a kid, and like before we had streaming and we could find it on streaming, like that period from like the 2000s, the mid 2000s to like when Disney Plus came around. You'd have to wait till Disney around like Halloween time for Disney to air them again. And then I remember like some of these they would air like closer to midnight, because they were like, oh, it's too scary for kids nowadays. It's like, what? This is not scary. This is not scary. Every once in a while they might show Phantom of the Megaplex like outside of it, because it's like it's like you said, it's kind of scary, but it's not like it doesn't have a mummy, it doesn't have a vampire. It's just like, it's got it's more of a mystery of like what's going on, what's happening. I love DCOMs, and I can't wait to talk about them more later. Alright, so let's get into the 2013 horror anthology film written, directed, and edited by Damien Leone, and is his feature film directorial debut. It's presented as a series of shorts that 2 children and their babysitter discover on an unmarked videotape on Halloween night, and features the first appearance of the homicidal clown, Art the Clown. That's right, it's All Hallows Eve. Leone created the character of Art the Clown, a figure that would eventually become iconic in the horror genre. Art made his first appearance in Leone's short film, The Ninth Circle, which he wrote and directed. He filmed it on 35mm in 2006. The short film was notable for its chilling atmosphere and unique character design. After making the festival circuit, The Ninth Circle premiered at the Backseat Film Festival in 2008, where it garnered attention for its innovative storytelling and striking visuals. Following this, Leone wrote and directed Terrifier, another short film featuring Art, which was released in 2011. This short further developed Art's character and showcased his terrifying persona, earning a dedicated fan base. The film's impact was significant enough that Jess Baggett, producer of All Hallows Eve, discovered Terrifier on YouTube. Impressed by the film, Baggett completed contemplated including it in an anthology project alongside other filmmaker shorts. However, Leone had a different vision. He recalls, "I wasn't having that, and I talked him into letting me shoot everything. He was totally cool with it and allowed me to write more and use the 2 shorts I had already made to create a cohesive film." This collaboration led to a deeper exploration of Art the Clown's character and a more comprehensive narrative structure. In All Hallows Eve, the Ninth Circle serves as the first segment, enriched with additional footage that was not part of the original short. The Terrifier short is featured as the film's third segment, showcasing Art in all his horrifying glory. When discussing the film's second segment, Leone addressed a common question. "A lot of people ask me why we didn't do another Art the Clown story. I felt that if I gave people another 15 or 20 minutes of him killing someone, it would take away from the impact of Terrifier." He aimed to maintain the suspense and fear associated with Art, believing that overexposing the character would dilute his effectiveness. Through All Hallows Eve, Leone not only expanded Art the Clown's legacy, but also crafted a compelling anthology that resonates with horror enthusiasts, illustrating the evolution of his creative process and the challenges he faced along the way. Although, I know that a lot of people hold this up as a compelling anthology. Honestly, we'll get into my final thoughts. I would severely put that lower on a list of like horror films, and I don't know if I'd say exactly that, but I know that a lot of people do hold it in high regards. So let's get into All Hallows Eve.
Babysitting on Halloween night? That's just asking for trouble.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's already been quite an eventful evening. Some creep slipped a videotape into Timmy's candy bag while we were trick-or-treating.
A videotape?
You should see what's on it.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm turning it off. It's too violent for the two of you.
Do you think that clown was real?
No, it's just make-believe. Demons, witches, monsters, that doesn't exist.
Please! The killer's out here! He's following me!
Who's following you?
He's a man. He's in a clown costume.
You got him, Mom?
On Halloween, after a night out trick-or-treating, children Tia and Timmy, played by Sydney Freer-Holfer and Cole Mathewson, respectfully, are surprised to find an unmarked VHS tape in their candy bag. Together with their babysitter Sarah, played by Kee McGuire, they watch the tape, which contains 3 stories featuring a homicidal clown named Art. Art is portrayed by Mike Gianelli. The first segment, The Ninth Circle, features a young woman named Casey, played by Kayla Lynn, who is drugged and kidnapped by Art while waiting for a train. She awakens to find herself chained in a room with 2 other women, Kristen and Sarah, and they are played by Marissa Wolf and Mina Taylor, respectively. When Sarah is dragged away by her chain, Casey and Kristen follow her to see where the chain leads. Upon reaching the end of the chains, Casey attempts to break the chains with a large rock. A deformed humanoid appears and dismembers Kristen with a cleaver, unwittingly freeing Casey by severing her chains. She runs away and encounters a man with a shopping cart, who she begs for help, but the man recaptures her and she is soon tied down and surrounded by a hooded coven of witches. After watching the witches cut the unborn baby from the womb of a restrained pregnant woman, Casey is raped by Satan. Sarah sends Timmy and Tia to bed and continues watching the tape by herself. The second segment, Something in the Dark, features Caroline, played by Catherine Callahan, who has just moved into a countryside home. At night, a bright object crashes near the house and a power outage occurs. Caroline's phone and car malfunctions, and she suspects that someone else is in the house. She suddenly receives a call from her husband, John, a painter, but the connection soon breaks. She discovers that she is being stalked by an alien, and after managing to disorient it, she hides in a small room under the staircase. There, her phone rings again, alerting the alien to her location. As the alien drags her off, she pulls a sheet off of one of John's paintings, revealing an image of Art the Clown. The third segment, Terrifier, features a costume designer played by Marie Masser. She drives down an isolated road, stopping at a gas station, and she finds the attendant played by Michael Chamil furiously kicking out Art, who had apparently smeared feces on the gas station's bathroom walls. While the attendant fills her tank and gives her directions, he hears a noise from inside. He goes inside to investigate, and when he does not return, the costume designer enters the building and sees Art chopping up his body with a hacksaw. She drives off, but Art appears behind her seat and attempts to suffocate her with cellophane. She slams on the brakes and escapes, barricading herself inside a large shed. Art digs his way into the shed and slashes her with a makeshift whip. She stabs Art in the eye with a scalpel and in the back with a knife. She escapes again and is picked up by a man who tries to drive her to a nearby police station. Art pursues them in a car and kills the man with a handgun, causing their car to crash. After some time, the costume designer regains consciousness on a crude operating table and finds that Art has amputated her limbs and breasts and carved misogynistic obscenities into her body. Disturbed, Sarah turns off the TV. A home phone rings, and when Sarah answers it, she hears the costume designer from the third segment pleading for help. The television turns back on, displaying a dingy room. Art steps into the frame, approaches Sarah from within the screen, and begins to pound on the glass. Sarah then sees herself on the television, with Art behind her. She frantically removes the tape from the VCR and smashes it on the floor, destroying it. Shortly afterwards, she hears Tia and Timmy scream. Sarah runs upstairs and sees Art the Clown outside their room, covered in blood, laughing at her and gleefully gesturing for her to enter. Sarah covers her eyes in terror when she uncovers them seconds later. Art has disappeared. Sarah enters the room, finding just Tia and Timmy's severed heads and Art written on the wall in blood. Now let us move on to some trivia about the film All Hallows Eve and learn some things about the behind the scenes, the production, and the actors. So the alien in the second story was originally going to be a puppet, but when the puppet didn't work, it was replaced by a man in a suit instead. And honestly, though, I kind of wish it was the puppet. The man in the suit kind of looked a little cheesy. I guess that's what he was kind of going for, maybe. Maybe punch up the design a little. It looked a little too generic for me, the alien. But like I said, maybe that's what he was kind of going for with this. But honestly, it reminds me of a story that I have bubbling in my head that I've had for a while. Although it's different than this. But I really want to produce that. I think it'd be kind of easy now that I see this. Now that I'm like, if they could do this pretty easily, I think I could do mine pretty easily. I think I'm going to try and shoot that later in the year, next year or something. But really, it's one of those things where I think, like, if you were going to go for like this kind of like the feel of the movie overall is kind of like low budget ish kind of. I'll save that for my final thoughts. Never mind. But I think having the puppet would have been maybe a little bit better. It would have played into that a little bit better. It actually would have made it a little bit more interesting and up that like production value to me, like having like this kind of crazy special effect of like the puppet trying to chase her down and stuff. But I would have loved to see that instead. This is the first feature film with the character of Art the Clown, played by Mike Gianelli. He originally appeared in the shorts, obviously The Ninth Circle and Terrifier, that make up the first and last of the VHS segments of the film. It was created because director Damien Leone felt that the 2010s lacked a distinct horror icon, especially a clown. Art was meant to be the opposite of Pennywise the Clown from It, which is why he appears in all black and white, uses weapons, and has no hair and does not speak. Gianelli retired from acting after this film. Honestly, that kind of sucks because I don't think he did a bad job as Art. Let me just say, I haven't seen Terrifier, any of the Terrifiers yet. The movies, like the full length features, like Terrifier, Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3, the trilogy that's got completed this year. He might be making more. I'm not sure, but for now we have a complete trilogy. So the role of Art was recast with David Howard Thornton. I hear that he actually does a better job than Gianelli, and Art the Clown isn't like he's not like one of my favorites, like a horror icon. I'm glad that like we're getting newer horror icons, but he never really stood out to me, especially this one. Maybe it's just that like maybe because they shot it a while ago, and Damien Leone didn't really have a real idea of what like Art the Clown was supposed to be and what Art the Clown is, how he's supposed to act exactly. He didn't have that down, and maybe I think with David Howard Thornton now playing him back to back to back, I think he has a better understanding of where that character is coming from, and that's what I hear is like David Howard Thornton does a better job than Gianelli. Although it kind of sucks that like when the first person who does it doesn't get as much recognition, when it's like that he was the one to like introduce it to everybody. But I'm gonna, just as so you guys know, I am gonna watch Terrifiers. That'll probably be closer to Christmas because I want to do the third one for Christmas. So we'll see the Terrifiers later this. Probably in December. Probably is what I'm going to do. The movie that the children are watching is George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead, widely regarded as the first modern zombie movie. Of course it is. Clips of this film are frequently included in horror movies because the makers forgot to properly copyright it, meaning that Night of the Living Dead fell into the public domain, and footage from it can be freely used, which I may have talked about before on here, which is kind of crazy. It's like it's great in the grand scheme of things for like first time filmmakers or filmmakers who have like lower budgets, something you can put on TV that's scary, that still calls back to like the ooky spooky stuff. Although it did suck for George A. Romero. He never got the money that he deserved for this because he couldn't copyright it and he couldn't, license it. That's why, and then that's also why I think he changed it to like Day of the Dead, instead of the Living Dead, Day of the Living Dead, or Dawn of the Living Dead. It's like Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, which with those he did get, his royalties for, which is great because he was such a prolific horror director, and I think he really deserved it, and he deserved it for Night of the Living Dead. Although, like I said, it's one of those things where it's like it's the two sides to it, where like it sucks that he didn't get the money, and he should have gotten like for that film, right? But it does become one of those things where like people were able to like mass produce it. People were able to put it in their films. People were able to put shows on for it. and use it as a way to like promote things. So it's got that kind of, and I hate to be talking about that instead of more of All Hallows Eve, but like it's one of those things that it'll pop up every once in a while for it's in Halloween, and it's in something else. Was it Follows that I was just watching recently? It was in something else too, where like I think it's like a tradition thing where like when horror films use it, like it's like, okay, this is gonna be something. Kill counter. And now we have arrived at the kill counter. This is the part of the podcast where we go through the kills and deaths in the film. First up, we got the gas station worker that I think the costume designer comes across. We see that his arm and hand are cut off by Art, and then he gets his head sawed off, like sawed through the neck. There's an unnamed woman who has her face mutilated, throat slashed, and hands cut off, and an unnamed man who's shot in the temple by Art. That's the guy who picks up the girl, the costume designer. They're like speeding down the road, and Art, honestly, you know what? For as much as like I'm about this movie, that actually was a pretty good. Like, you very rarely get to see a like a horror movie monster villain person guy thing being use a gun, and I think it was funny because you just very rarely see them use a gun to kill people. I think the last time I've seen was maybe Ghostface in Scream 6 when he used the shotgun. And I think before that, like, I don't think I've ever seen them use a gun to, like, you know what I mean, to kill people. But it just comes out of nowhere. It's just like he pulls up and he just bam shoots them. I will say that was actually like, I was like, oh, I was impressed by that one. Because I was like, yeah, that's very rarely seen. It's very rare that you and it's kind of funny. It plays into the, the clown bit thing. It's just out of nowhere, just pretty funny. Then we see Kristen, after she's been, I think, is that the one where she's been drugged? And no, that's the one where the girl at the beginning, and yeah, she gets like all of her arms and limbs amputated, and I guess she dies from that. And then last and certainly not least, because they're two kids, Timmy and Tia are decapitated by Art, and we get to see just their heads in that like ending of the wraparound story with Sarah the babysitter. And it's just crazy. It's crazy that he actually, well, I mean, for something like that goes on to be Terrifier, from what I hear, is that might be pretty tame for what, especially when you got like, oh, he like amputates people's like arms and legs and stuff. But yeah, those are the 6 deaths in the film All Hallows Eve, which is a pretty okay amount, I think. I mean, it's a lot better than some films. That's pretty. I would say that's pretty average for a film. So hopefully, maybe the other all the Terrifiers are better, more. Maybe they have pretty cool deaths in those ones, kills. Who knows? All right, now it's time for my final thoughts on the film All Hallows Eve. And right off the bat, guys, I'm not a huge fan of this film. To me, it just feels, like I said, low budgety. I don't know. maybe it's the color too. The color grading it always makes me feel weird. But maybe that's I'm supposed to feel weird from it. Because I know from what I've seen of Terrifier, it kind of seems similar to this. But maybe I'm just thinking of this one and like the scenes with Art the Clown from my memory. But I don't know. Nothing really. I mean, there are things that stand out. Obviously, Art the Clown. I will say, he does stand out. He's kind of cool. I like his design. I think he's a little weird, but overall, he's okay. Like I said, the shooting the gun. I think that was kind of okay. That was actually pretty funny. I'm not really into like gore and like just mutilations and stuff. That doesn't really like fully scare me, and it doesn't really it doesn't really scare me at all. But it's like, if that's what you got to resort to for the film to be like, it's like that thing with like Hostel or Saw or something, right? Where it's like it just like pushed more and more into this, just like, yeah, you want me to rip off your face and then rip off your legs and then rip out your inside. So it's like, why? Like, it's just overkill. It's like, why can't you just have some guy who's wandering around the streets again and just slashes up people like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or Ghostface again? But overall, it's fine. I don't know if I liked it. I think it's okay. I think there's other anthologies that do this like way better. Trick or Treat, I would say, is probably like the standard for how you do a great anthology movie. Creepshow also is how you do an amazing. Those two I think are amazing for anthology. There's one, Tales of Halloween, that has I think like 13 shorts in it or something. They try to fit a lot, but I think I compare that to this. But I think I like that one better than this one. Like, this only has like 3 segments. That one has like a bunch of segments, and some are hit and miss. Some are like forgettable. Some are more memorable than the others. But overall, like, I would rather watch that, where I think Barry Bostwick's in that one, where he plays like the devil or something. I'd rather see that than, like Art the Clown sit here for 5 minutes just like miming at the girl waiting for the train, and then, oh, whoops, she's been drugged. Where is she now? That's what I really can't wait to see. I feel like maybe with Terrifier, it would make these movies a little bit better. This movie a little bit better, but it kind of, you shouldn't have to watch another movie to feel like, oh, this elevates this film or that elevates that film or whatever, right? You should be able to stand on its own. And to me, it just feels like a low budget film from the 2000s, I guess the 2010s. I forget when this was. 2013, I think. So like the early 2010s, when this was before like what we consider like that started the golden age of horror, where horror was starting to come back and is now considered like a more like prestigious genre than it is than it was before, back in like the 80s and 90s, and even into the 2000s. Like, nobody took this at all seriously, and now look at it, everybody's like you got A24 who like banks on like these horror films that are like more elevated, that are more, you gotta, oh, I'm gonna think about this a little bit more. Oh, the kills, oh. And the acting was fine. No one really stood out. I think actually the guy who plays Art, something Gianelli, what's his name? Michael Gianelli. I think he does a good job as Art. That's why I can't wait to see David Howard Thornton as Art, because Gianelli retired, and maybe he's a little bit different. Maybe he plays it a little bit better. I think Art is fine in this. I think like I feel like he came up with the character and like really liked him for one short didn't know what to do with him in another short. Then finally came up with the idea for Terrifier. Not the movie, the short Terrifier that's in this. It's very confusing when you're talking about it, because it's like there's the short film Terrifier, then there's the movie Terrifier, whatever. The short films, I think then he came up with, and then just started piecing it together with this. I feel like you could have made it a little bit more cohesive. I feel like you didn't need. I feel like less of art for this would have worked a little bit better. Maybe art shows up in that. I guess that's what he does. But we do see him. I don't know. I guess not. I guess it's like in the ninth circle. It's the cult and Satan or whatever. And then we just see a photo painting of art. And then art gets to be more in it. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what he could have done differently, but honestly, to me, meh. I know a lot of people were immediately captivated by art and wanted more. And obviously Damien Leone wanted to do more with art. Which, that's why I'm excited to see Terrifier, because I hear good things, I hear bad things, I hear just okay things. So I can't wait to see Terrifier, but All Hallows Eve by itself really isn't really getting me like going, and isn't really going to be part of my rotation of Halloween films. It just doesn't like hit like any other anthology film does. Sorry, but that's what it is. I'd still probably give it like 3 stars, just because like art does kind of make it a little bit better, but everything else kind of falls flat. So hey, at least I'm not like completely trashing it and giving it like 1 star. I didn't hate it. It's just that there's just things about it that I wish like could have been done a little bit better. And like, it's just like that's where like my own like bias and like taste comes in, where it's like, I just didn't like it. But it's fine. Like I'm not telling you, like I'm not bashing it. I'm not saying don't go watch it. If you watch it and you like it, awesome. That's great. Like love it all you want. Like that's what movies are made to be, and especially horror, where like you can get these movies where like people love, like I don't really like Rob Zombie films, but people love that like aesthetic that he brings. And it's like, hey, if that's what you like, then all the better. Like at least we're having a conversation about it, and we're talking about it, and we're giving like you can bring your reasons, and I can say, you know what, I agree, or I don't know if I agree that far into it, but you know, at least we can sit here and talk about it, and we're not just sitting here and like arguing like this is better because this is you have to watch this, you have to watch. It's like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you like it, watch it all you want. But I mean, like I said, that's why I'm very interested in watching Terrifier and see how this goes on. The rest of the series with Terrifier 2, and Terrifier 3, just to see like, hey, where does it go from here? Tonight is the spookiest time of the year, when the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, and the spirits are allowed to roam free. Let's go over the history of the holiday of Halloween. Halloween is a vibrant celebration observed in numerous countries on October 31st, the eve of the Western Christian feast known as All Hallows Day. This date heralds the beginning of All Hallows Tide, a significant period in the liturgical calendar dedicated to honoring the dead, including saints who are referred to as hallows. It's also the martyrs and all faithful departed souls. Over the centuries, Halloween has transformed into a day widely associated with themes of horror and the supernatural, celebrated in a variety of ways across pop culture. The term Halloween or Halloween, or I don't know how else to pronounce that because it's Halloween with an apostrophe to kind of, well, you'll see. It has its roots in Christian tradition. The phrase means Saints' Evening, and an equivalent term for All Hallows Eve can be found in Old English. The Scottish tradition of All Hallows Eve gave rise to the term Halloween or Halloween. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's where even in the Scots word for eve or evening, the contraction of even leads to variations such as een or een, which means that All Hallows Even gradually evolved where they dropped the all, the S and the V, and became Halloween. One prevalent theory posits that many Halloween traditions trace their roots back to ancient Celtic harvest festivals, particularly the Gaelic festival of Samhain, which anyone who's looking at this word Samhain, it's like any other like Celtic or like when you look at any kind of Irish name and like Saoirse, it's Saoirse. I know I'm probably not pronouncing that right. I think I'm pronouncing it correct, but like every time I hear her pronounce it, I'm like, I'm pronouncing it the way you're pronouncing it. And they're just like, no, it's not Saoirse, it's Saoirse. It's like, what? I'm pronouncing it exactly the same way. But it's funny because it's like Siobhan, where Siobhan's nowhere nearly spelled like that, where it looks like Siobhan, but it's pronounced Siobhan. It's the same thing with Samhain. It looks like Sam Hain, but it's pronounced Samhain. Not sure why. It's just that those are the letters I think it would be kind of like, it's like with Spanish when you look at a word like jalapeno, and it's jalapeno, but to, I guess, an American looking at it with American English, you'd be like, oh, jalapeno. It's like, no, it's jalapeno, because the J makes an H sound, and then like the N has like the little accent to make it, instead of N, it's like more of an Enya sound. So it's the same thing like with the like different languages, different sounds, right? This festival, which marked the conclusion of the harvest season and the transition into winter, is believed to have pagan origins. Some scholars suggest that Samhain was gradually Christianized by the early church and subsequently morphed into the observance of All Hallows Day and its preceding evening. Conversely, other academics argue that Halloween originated solely as a Christian holiday, functioning as a vigil for All Hallows Day. For centuries, Halloween has been a cherished celebration in Scotland and Ireland. In the 19th century, Scottish and Irish immigrants carried a rich tapestry of Halloween customs to North America, where these traditions blossomed and evolved. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, American cultural influences played a pivotal role in popularizing Halloween globally, resulting in a diverse celebration that blends age-old customs with modern interpretations. Among the myriad activities associated with Halloween are trick-or-treating, alongside related practices like guising and souling, attending costume parties, and the age-old tradition of carving pumpkins, or as they actually did back in Ireland and Scotland, which is, I found out this a while ago, but I was like very surprised to hear this, that they used turnips as jack-o'-lanterns originally, because they didn't have pumpkins. Pumpkins are not native to Scotland or Ireland or anything. They're a new world. Maybe it's considered a fruit because it has seeds. Most people probably consider it like a vegetable. It's a gourd, obviously. But they found these gourds, and they decided that they were easier to carve than turnips, so they started carving pumpkins and making them into jack-o'-lanterns. Additionally, people often light bonfires, partake in apple bobbing, and engage in various divination games. Ooh, like Ouija boards or seances. Many also enjoy sharing spooky stories or watching horror films during this festive time, and that's exactly what I love. I love hearing scary stories during this time. I love watching horror movies. It's like the best thing to do to get you in that spooky spirit. While some individuals celebrate Halloween in a secular context, others embrace the Christian elements of All Hallows Eve by attending church services or lighting candles on the graves of loved ones, which is more of a Day of the Dead type of thing, Dia de los Muertos, which is actually, I think it's a day or two after Halloween. That's when they usually celebrate Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, which is a Mexican festivity that we partake in. Me here in America, we don't. My family doesn't do Day of the Dead. Although it's like you do have like an ofrenda. That's where you keep all like the photos and different objects and personal effects. That's what I meant, from like your past family members, and that's where you place like the marigolds on there, and then you go to the cemetery on Dia de los Muertos, and you bring them their favorite foods, and you sit with them, the whole family, like at the graves, and you just celebrate the people who used to be here before you that have passed on. It could be like your grandma, it could be your grandpa, it could be your cousins, it could be your mom, your dad, it could be whoever you want to celebrate who's passed on, and you sit there and reminisce about them. You don't forget about them, because in our culture, like, that's more what we try to remember the people as they were, and we don't try and be it's sad, but we understand that like they're still here with us in a way, they're still within us. They're still around with, like, you act just like your tia who passed away, or whatever, or your nana or abuela, however you want to say it, your term for grandma. And also, historically, certain Christian communities observe a meatless diet on this vigil, a tradition reflecting the consumption of vegetarian foods such as apples, potato pancakes, and soul cakes. And yeah, Halloween is just like this great time of the year where, at least for here in Arizona, you can totally tell that the season has changed when Halloween's coming around. Because right now, it finally has cooled down enough to where, like, I can have the windows open. I can go outside and not be baked alive, especially with it getting hotter and hotter every year. This whole summer was very, very hot. It was over 100 for days, months, like just over 100, and it's getting worse. It's climate change, and a lot of people don't want to believe that, especially because then it starts cooling down and they want to forget about it. But it's like, but now look at it's getting to be like 100 to, like, it didn't really start cooling down until like a week ago, maybe like 2 weeks, but then it started heating up again, and then I was like, man, is it gonna cool down in time for Halloween? Luckily it does. It still does cool down in time for Halloween, because today it's a little chilly. Hopefully tonight's very chilly, and then as we get into November, December, it gets even chillier, because I love when it's chilly. But yeah, no, you to me, it's always this like great time of year where I just remember everything I saw as a kid. You know, all the horror movies, all the Halloween specials, all the, you know, the things that we used to do, the dressing up, going out, you know, doing all these different things, and I love it. It's just nostalgia for me, and it makes me remember, you know, like why I love the season so much, why it's like honestly probably my favorite holiday, except for maybe Christmas. It's got its own vibe and thing going on, but Halloween just is cool. Like, Halloween is this great time of the year, you know, where, you know, spooky, where it's horror, you know, where, I don't know, I get to finally use my mug that's I've been using it for this month, that I bought from Disney World. It's 2 pumpkins, it's Mickey. I get to, you know, talk about horror more with people because they really want to hear it. You know, they want to hear scary stories. They want to know more about like spooky stuff. And honestly, what I've always wanted to do is throw like a Halloween party, you know, where like, you know, there's like scary stuff going on in the background, you know, like there's scary music, there's fog, there's cakes, and, you know, there's bobbing for apples, there's pumpkin carving contests, there's little treats here and there. I've always wanted to throw a Halloween party. Hopefully I'll be able to do that one day and everybody will show up. But until then, guys, that's the story of Halloween. Now turn your lights low, lock your doors, and bolt your windows. Let's get into some creepy stories to end off the spooky holiday. Our first story is Light from the Sky. So I had actually forgotten about this memory, probably due to my friend not wanting to talk about it. So I shuffled it to the back of my memory. For some reason, last night I thought about it for the first time in years. I used to work in a restaurant back in my mid-20s, and I had a core group of friends who worked there too. As it happens in these cases, we usually meet up to have a few drinks after work at my buddy's house. This night we relaxed. There was probably about 5 or 6 of us at his place, and we decided to drink a beer or two while we watched the movie. We had a big couch in his room, and we'd all chill on it. Just a few sips and minutes into the movie, my buddy remembered that he left his dip in the cabin, and that was in the backyard of the house. So he left to go grab it. When he came back a few minutes later, he turned on the light in the room and was white as a ghost. He asked if we'd seen it. There was a big window in the room that faced out towards the walkway to the cabin area, but all of us were busy watching the movie and had no idea what he was talking about. Now, Big Shoe, as we call him, is a big guy. No nonsense sort of fella, honest to a fault. So to see the color drain from his face was more than a bit alarming. I had never seen him show the slightest bit of fear, even with the hairy situations we'd sometimes find ourselves in. He began going into detail about how he went to the cabin and started walking back. He noticed someone had left the floodlight on and thought nothing of it for a second. Then he remembered there was no floodlight. The light was yellow and warm. He looked up for the source, and as he put it, it sort of scanned across my eyes and disappeared. We didn't know what to make of it, and after a few minutes we settled back in and turned on the movie. About 10 minutes later, I noticed my heart was beating fast. The room felt hot as I brushed it off. 20 minutes or so had passed, and my buddy's brother, Little Shoe, asked me if I was okay. I told him I was fine and asked why. Looking over at him next to me on the couch, he said, "You're breathing really hard." Then he said, "Holy shit, turn on the light." When the light came on, I was beet red. My eyes were a shade Willie Nelson would have had a hard time summoning. My skin looked like it had stripped naked and lounged in Death Valley all day. My heart was beating through my chest and my breathing was rapid. The Shoes got their mom to come to the room, she was a registered nurse, and check me out. She took my blood and pressure and it was extremely high. Her response was stop eating so much ramen. No one could really explain it though. No one else had any effect, even though they were literally next to me on the couch. We wondered if the yellow light Big Shoe saw and my odd burn were related, but as usual with these things, we could never figure it out. The burn faded pretty quickly and I was back to normal when I woke up the next day. I tried to talk to Big Shoe about it a few times, but he never wanted to talk about it again. I brushed it to the back of my mind, and it probably had been a good 13 years or so since it happened. That is very strange. I don't know if it's connected that much because he's not the one who went out there. Seems coincidental. The floodlight thing is a little weird. I'm not sure why his friend wouldn't want to talk about it, right? Like, obviously, like, nothing happened to him, but with the writer, the narrator, it seems like something happened to him, like he was getting something. I don't know what happened to him, maybe some high blood pressure or something, maybe, but it doesn't seem to be like related at all. I don't know what would have caused that. That could have been coming from the light. I think he's just trying to put two and two together because they happened at the same time. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. I don't think it had anything to do with anything. I think the light is kind of weird, but the other thing is like, I don't know, maybe it was just like, yeah, maybe like an allergic reaction or something. I don't know. Little strange, but not too weird. Our next story is called Strange Childhood Experience. Most of the time when I tell this childhood experience of mine to people, they don't know what to say. I've never met anyone who can relate to this, and my own family doesn't believe me about it. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. I used to play in the woods a lot as a young kid. I usually was told to stay close enough to the house that I could hear my mom yell to me to come home. There were tons of rocks and trees to play with. I believe I was around 7 or 8 at the time. One day my mom was working and my dad was home watching me. I told him I was going to go head out into the woods and go a little farther than usual, but I wouldn't be gone for too long. He said, okay, but be safe. I'm going to take a nap. I knew he meant I had a few hours. I decided to go farther into the woods than I'd ever gone. I knew there was a dirt road about half a mile straight back from my backyard through the woods. I put a watch on my wrist and packed a bag with water in case something happened or I couldn't find my way home. I watched the time on my watch as I walked straight back out into my backyard in a straight line through the back of the woods so that I could walk straight back to get home. I was young and I had no idea how long it took to walk half a mile. I walked for about 1 hour when I started to get a little worried that I hadn't found the road yet. Then all of a sudden I could see something in the distance that looked like water. I got closer. It seemed that there was a huge, beautiful lake. It was the most beautiful lake I'd ever seen still to this day. It had the perfect reflection, and I remember it looking so serene. There were no houses on the lake that I could see, at least. It looked like the water went on forever. The only sign of human activity was what seemed to be 3 old, falling apart wooden cabins. Something about them seemed old or sold older. I remember yelling hello just to hear the sound of my voice echo and no reply. I remember I wanted to make sure I wasn't on the cabin owner's property. I wanted to go down to the water and touch it, but it just happened to be up on a steep cliff-like edge with lots of sand and rocks going down. I was afraid if I went down I wouldn't be able to get back up by myself. I was so excited to have found the lake. I wanted to show my parents so they could take me back there to get down to the water safely. So I had looked at my watch and said, okay, it took me an hour to get here. It should take me 1 hour to walk straight back and get home. After walking in the woods for about 1 hour, I started to worry a little bit, but kept walking straight. After an hour and 6 minutes, I finally saw my house. I had gotten back to my mom and who was just getting home from work. I ran inside and told my parents what I had found and asked them to go for a walk with me to show them. They were shocked about what I was saying and told me that was impossible. There was no lake behind us or any large bodies of water in those woods. They said that it was impossible that I had walked for an hour straight back because after a mile it would have hit the dirt road and then the highway. They refused to go out there with me and asked if I had fallen and hit my head. My mom said that I must have daydreamed of it or fallen asleep in the woods and dreamt it. I remember it clear as day because it was the first time they had refused to believe what I was telling them, and their reaction to what I told them shocked me as well. To this day, I have so many questions. I've never gone out there by myself since then. I don't know if seeing the lake was a spiritual symbol of some sort, or it came close to something negative or evil. I have so many questions about why that happened. If anyone has information, please let me know. That's kind of weird too when you think about it. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you could say, oh, it's just a little kid playing around. But I think you're at a good age to understand that, like, you're walking there, like, you're seeing something. It's not fake. And then he's like, he sounds a little bit more prepared than like some kids would be. Like, think about like some people have been told when they're telling the story, oh yeah, like I just went out, I started walking through the woods, and then there was a lake there, and then I went back home and I tried to tell my parents. It's like, no, it sounded like he was prepared to go out in the woods and like be gone at least a little bit further than he normally was. He took water, he took a watch to make sure he was keeping track of the time. He was prepared for going out there. I don't know, that's kind of strange to me that there's maybe he walked a little bit ways that he didn't know, you know what I mean, like he didn't think he was walking and he actually did find but then the thing is, like, wouldn't the parents have known about a lake nearby? I don't know, that's kind of strange. This is kind of reminds me of like people when they lose time, although he didn't lose any kind of time, but like it's like he kind of went like extra dimensional, or it's a parallel place where maybe there's a lake there wherever he went. Maybe there's the space where I don't know, maybe there used to be this water in the campgrounds, and then over time they got rid of it, like they dammed it up, or like they something, right? Like they dammed up or something, or maybe they drained the lake or something. I don't know, that's a little scary. I mean, okay, he was a little kid, but at the same time it's one of those things, it's like a double-edged sword where it's like, yeah, he's a kid, can you really trust what he's seeing and what he was talking about? But at the same time it's like, but I feel like 7 or 8, that's old enough to be like, to understand, to like, he's not making up a story here. He knows what he's seeing, especially being a kid who understands, like, okay, I gotta take water as a precaution, I gotta take my watch, I gotta know exactly how far along I walked. So it sounds like he knew where he was kind of heading towards, and he knew about the road that should have been there. So it's not like he didn't like he got into the road and kept going past it. I don't know what to make of that one. This next story is called Large Black Wolf Dog. I'd been driving back home to Dunellen, Florida from Yankeetown, Crystal River, Florida. I'd been out all afternoon and into the night with my best friend fishing. We didn't have much luck fishing except for some catfish. It was 11 or 12 at night, and there was no one else on the country roads. These roads were one-way roads. While on the way back traveling, it's, let's say, east on the one-way road, there's a large wolf-looking all-black dog with piercing gold eyes. It was running on my side of the road, only headed towards traffic going west. As we were driving, it just ran right by us on the shoulder. It was really weird. Me and my friend saw the dog. It was a large black dog, wolf-looking dog, like very majestic. It seemed like it had a purpose, and it knew what it was doing. After the dog ran by, I was kind of thinking like, damn, I hope no one hits that dog. I brushed it off as somebody's escaped dog who happens to be running with purpose on the road somewhere. It was a large dog, I would say, larger than a full-grown German Shepherd, all black. Has anyone ever seen anything like this? I know this could probably be just a coincidence, but I was interested to see if anyone else has ever encountered an all-black, large, wolf-looking dog. This is just a little creepy because it's like, yeah, it was running by you. Like, how fast were you driving? Like, it like booked it past you, and like, how big was the dog too, right? Like, if say it was like you said like a German Shepherd but kind of bigger, like that's kind of crazy. So it's kind of bulky. Yeah, I wonder what it was. Maybe it was just a dog. Maybe, I don't know. Are there wolves in Florida? But I don't think a wolf would be that big. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like, it reminds me of like in like the what's it called, the Skinwalker Ranch, where like they talk about that one time where like that wolf creature was around them, and it came up to like the shoulder of like one of the guys, and he's like, it was like, that's how big it was like huge. And it's like, yeah, and like, but like you say, it was running like it had a purpose, like it knew where it was going. Like, to me, that kind of sounds a little like, was it a dog man? Was it a werewolf? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if a dog man and a werewolf are that different, but like, I don't know. Like, that's still kind of strange. But like, black dog mythology comes from the moorland of Britain. So maybe because like that area is kind of marshy, maybe because Florida has kind of like a marshy Everglades area, like that kind of topography. Maybe that's why it was there. Who knows? Or maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was just somebody's dog. They just happened to have a big fucking dog, and it got out. I don't know. That's see, like things like that where it's like, oh, you just saw it like running, and it's like, you know it's a huge fucking thing, and it's big, and like it just runs past you and just leaves. That's when it's like, whoa, that's crazy. Our next tale is called Translucent Smoke Looking Thing with Sharp Corners. 2 years ago, my wife and I were headed out to a cemetery in a rural area for a graveside ceremony of her grandpa, whose funeral we had just attended. As we were approaching the cemetery, I saw something weird and pointed it out to my wife, who also saw it, and neither of us knew what to make of it. Above a tree next to the dirt road, we were driving on what was something that I can best describe as a crumpled bedsheet made of smoke tumbling in the wind. It had discernible edges and hard angles to it, but it was darkly translucent like smoke. When I first saw it in the distance, I thought it was smoke from a tractor or something because we were in a farm country and there were a few farmhouses near the cemetery. But as we drove closer, the smoke, quote unquote, didn't dissipate. There was no tractor, there was no fire, and we could distinctly see edges and angles to this thing that would be impossible if it were just smoke. It stayed maybe 5 to 10 feet above the treetop, just tumbling around in place like a bedsheet in the dryer, and was probably itself 10 to 15 feet wide and 6 feet tall. We lost sight of it for a few seconds because of a tree closer to the road we were driving on, and then it was just gone. So the closest we got to it was maybe 80, 100 feet before it disappeared. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of like Nope, like the alien / craft or whatever it was in the movie, like that. Just like at first it looks like a UFO or it looks like a cloud or something, and then it like morphs into like that more like billowy kind of thing. Like, this is kind of creepy. Like, just imagine, yeah, you're driving and you just see like this angled shaped smoke thing. Like, that's the part. Like, what do you mean when you're like it had angles? Like, is it like that? Like, it kind of looked like it was like it had a shape and it was like translucent and like kind of like Predator, where like you can, for the film, they give it kind of like this discernible shape so we can see it, but it's supposed to be able to blend in like with its surroundings. Is it kind of like that, where it comes translucent like that? I don't know. And then maybe like if it was something like a UFO or something alien, like what? Like why was it there? What was it doing, right? Like, I don't know. It's like I'm reading the comments, sorry, and it says that I'll never have seen that. It sounds like a classic psychic blocking. You weren't allowed to really see what was there, is that's what one person commented. And then the LP said, I hadn't considered that, but that's a good possibility too. I've seen ghosts and UFOs before, but this was weird. So obviously it's not something spectral. It's not something I guess unidentified, like a flying object. I guess it's something completely different, something more distinct than that. That's kind of weird. Yeah, like maybe, yeah, you're right. Like maybe it was something like trying to block out what you're trying to see. I don't know. Sometimes there's things that you don't know. And we'll end off with this last tale. Strange dream about non-human beings and a black werewolf. I want to start this off by saying I rarely dream, mainly because of cannabis use. People who smoked a lot before probably know what I'm talking about. Basically, weed makes it harder to have or recall dreams for some people. Last night was different though. I don't remember much like the setting or anything, but remember being employed some sort of effect on me that made it incredibly hard to move, even turn my head. It felt like I was submerged in molasses and the air felt like very thick and muggy, but I could still breathe. All I remember it telling me was the last bit. I remember the exact words, "You will never speak of it again," in a very croaky but high-pitched voice. The voice sounded like a mixture of what you would expect a frog would sound like and an electrolarynx. And it was booming, extremely loud, almost like it was in my head, but I could still hear reverberations. Also, a part of the same dream, I was transferred to my childhood home and my parents were both there, long since divorced. And then I'm put in a situation where both I and my parents know that there's something outside our house hiding from view. Then I inexplicably am forced to open our door against my own will, and standing outside our doorway is a huge black dog, werewolf-like creature. The scariest part was that the face didn't move like an animal. It was static, as if the entire point was to horrify me and my parents. At this exact moment, I'm able to somewhat regain control of myself and try to close our door, but it's not working because that thick molasses feeling around my body is also back. That is greatly reducing my strength and ability to fight this thing from getting in. Then something interesting happened. I was terrified and I yelled at it, "In the name of Jesus Christ, leave!" And upon saying that, the creature seemed to recoil a bit, and I was able to close the door. It looked at me in the eyes for a second or two, and then I woke up. The creature's face looked kind of similar to one they posted, although he describes it as being very massive, taller than a 6-foot man, and completely jet black. And the mouth was a lot more horrific and unnatural, more like teeth and razors coming from everywhere. I can't really remember which part came first and which came after. The creature might have been before the alien, but as I'm sure you are aware, sense of time is very slippery in dreamland. I'm not very religious, so I found it interesting. I felt I had to call out to Jesus Christ, and the creature's reaction to the name was even more surprising. I've heard that invoking the name of Jesus Christ has caused contact experiences to end prematurely, which I find really strange and concerning. As far as the phenomenon goes, I feel equally pulled in both a scientific and religious direction. The OP feels like they're really both necessary to this topic. Yeah, in all honesty, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about like strange dreams. I think it's cool to like cover all that kind of stuff. That's why I kind of went through like a full gamut of things. I didn't try and pick out just one type of topic of ghosts, of just cryptids, of this and that. I wanted to have like a wide variety because sometimes, you know, dreams too can tell us a little bit about some things, and maybe he's thinking this wasn't just a dream, because like he said, if he's smoking weed, like, yeah, that does happen where weed does kind of like block you from having dreams. If he's remembering this dream, maybe it wasn't really a dream. Maybe he was visited by some being, or maybe that was just part of a dream to unlock a memory where maybe that happened to him, where there was this thing at the door, something outside in the woods, or something outside of his house. Maybe something creepy, spooky, a werewolf, a dogman, a large black dog, which all kind of symbolize, well, the black dog symbolizes death. So, I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Let me, actually, I'm going to open up this photo. Let me see. I'm going to kind of describe it. Hopefully I don't get screwed. Oh, okay, it's the werewolf from An American Werewolf in London. So he's saying it's like a darker than that, but tall, standing up. Okay, I can see that. Yeah. That's kind of what I was picturing anyways. But he was like saying that the teeth were more razor sharp and, you know, just coming out of everywhere. And it's like, yeah, that's creepy. Damn, I can't believe he like actually like remembered that dream. But like I said, maybe it wasn't a dream. Maybe it was a memory or something. Who knows? Maybe he blocked it from something. From maybe it was or something happened to him when he was a kid and he blocked it out, and this was just a memory he had. I don't know. Sometimes I think I get dreams and memories mixed up sometimes, and I'm like, did I dream that, or was that like a memory that I had? I don't know. But guys, there's a lot of creepy things out there. There's a lot of strange things out there. High strangeness, which is the phenomena of the paranormal, the UFOs, UAPs, cryptozoology, fringe theories, the supernatural, that all falls under this high strangeness. And I love just digging deep into it and, you know, talking about it. You know, I love making up stories for it. I love hearing stories from it, personal experiences. So if you got any, you know, let me know. I love to hear them. I love to talk about them. If you go on to TikTok, I've got some personal stories on there from my family, some from my extended family where they saw La Llorona. There's a TikTok on there. There's some from my family more closely related, where like they see things inside of, and like the house that we used to live in California that was very haunted. So go and listen to those. Hopefully I'll be able to bring you more scary stories in the future. But until then, let's wrap this up. What's your favorite DCOM? Did you like All Hallows Eve? Did you have a great Halloween? I know, I did. We want to thank you all for listening, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to get every new episode downloaded. Do you have any personal or fictional paranormal, supernatural, or unexplainable stories? We love to read them on the podcast. Please send your stories, recommendations, or anything else to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to show more support, you can follow our socials on Instagram, Threads, or TikTok at horrorboxpodcast. Also, you can buy me a coffee at coffee.com/horrorboxpodcast. It really helps out. Until next spooky season, have a happy Halloween. This is Dom, signing off from the Horrorbox.
There's somebody after me.
Who's after you?
The man. He's in a clown costume. He's trying to kill me.
This isn't some sort of Halloween prank, is it? I suppose not. How bad are you hurt?
I don't know.
There's a police station a few miles up ahead. Just hang in there, okay? Everything's gonna be fine.